Christy Kinahan was once an ordinary taxi driver in Dublin. He blended into the background, another face in the crowd. But beneath the surface, ambition simmered. Kinahan craved wealth and power. He found his opportunity in the burgeoning drug trade of the 1980s. Ireland was awash in heroin, and Kinahan saw a chance to make his mark. He started small, a cog in the wheel of a larger operation. But Kinahan was different. He was intelligent, calculating, and ruthless. He understood the importance of staying one step ahead. His rise was swift and brutal. Kinahan's empire was built on a foundation of fear and loyalty. By the late 1980s, Christy Kinahan was no longer just another face in the crowd. The taxi driver had become a drug lord. Christy Kinahan's success was not built on brute force alone. He was a master strategist, always thinking several moves ahead. Information was power, and he cultivated a vast network of informants. Kinahan knew everything on his turf, from rival gangs to police whispers. He recognized the importance of logistics. Drug trafficking required meticulous planning and execution. Kinahan built a sophisticated supply chain, moving heroin with ruthless efficiency. He bribed officials, forged documents, and exploited border security weaknesses. Kinahan's methods were cold and calculating. Rivals were obstacles to be removed. He orchestrated turf wars, turning gangs against each other. Challengers met with swift and brutal retribution. His ruthlessness earned him fear and respect. Known as the Dapper Don, he had a penchant for luxury. Beneath the sophistication lurked a dangerous predator. Kinahan's empire was built on blood and money, ruled with an iron fist. In 1986, Christy Kinahan's reign of power seemed to come to an abrupt end. He was arrested on charges of heroin trafficking and sentenced to 6 years in prison. Many believed this was the end for the Dapper Don, that his empire would crumble without his leadership. They underestimated his ambition and his ability to adapt. Prison became Kinahan's university. He used his time inside to forge new alliances, learn new languages, and study the intricacies of international finance. He saw the bigger picture, recognizing that the real money was to be made beyond the shores of Ireland. Upon his release in 1992, Kinahan wasted no time in putting his plans into action. He relocated to Amsterdam, a city known for its lax drug laws and strategic location at the heart of Europe. From this new base of operations, Kinahan began to build a global network of crime. He reached out to Colombian cartels, forging alliances with some of the most powerful criminal organizations in the world. Kinahan's ambition knew no bounds. He was no longer content with being a kingpin in Dublin. He wanted to control the flow of drugs across continents. Amsterdam in the early 1990s was a city on the edge. The Dutch government's tolerant approach to soft drugs had created a permissive environment, attracting criminals from across the globe. Christy Kinahan, with his sharp intelligence and ruthlessness, thrived in this chaotic underworld. He established a network of safe houses, money launderers, and enforcers. Kinahan's organization became a well-oiled machine, smuggling vast quantities of cocaine and heroin into Europe. He cultivated relationships with corrupt officials, ensuring that his shipments flowed freely across borders. Kinahan understood the importance of blending in. He eschewed the flashy lifestyle of some of his contemporaries, preferring to operate in the shadows. He became a ghost, a whisper in the wind, always one step ahead of the authorities. But his empire was built on violence. Kinahan's enforcers were ruthless, eliminating rivals and silencing informants with chilling efficiency. The streets of Amsterdam became a battleground as Kinahan fought to maintain his grip on the lucrative drug trade. He was a man who inspired both fear and loyalty, a dangerous combination that made him almost untouchable. Christy Kinahan's ambitions extended far beyond the drug trade. He saw opportunities in every corner of the criminal underworld. He diversified his portfolio, investing in arms smuggling, money laundering, and property development. Kinahan's organization became a vast and complex enterprise with tentacles reaching across the globe. He forged alliances with Russian mobsters, Italian mafiosi, and Chinese triads. Kinahan's network became a melting pot of criminality, united by a shared desire for profit and power. He understood the importance of loyalty, but also recognized the value of pragmatism. Kinahan was not afraid to betray his allies if it served his interests. To manage his sprawling empire, Kinahan brought in his sons, Daniel and Christopher. He groomed them to take over the family business, instilling in them the same ruthlessness and ambition that had brought him to the top. The Kinahan cartel became a dynasty, a criminal enterprise passed down from one generation to the next. In a bid to legitimize his wealth and enhance his public image, Christy Kinahan turned to the world of professional boxing. He saw an opportunity to launder money, forge new connections, and gain a foothold in a glamorous and lucrative industry. Kinahan set up his own management company, MGM, and began signing promising young fighters. He used his wealth and influence to secure lucrative fights for his boxers, quickly gaining a reputation as a major player in the sport. But Kinahan's involvement in boxing was not without controversy. Rumors swirled about his criminal past and his use of the sport to launder money. Journalists who dared to investigate his dealings were met with threats and intimidation. The world of boxing, with its history of corruption and links to organized crime, proved to be a perfect fit for Kinahan. He thrived in this shadowy world, using his power and influence to manipulate fighters, promoters, and even boxing officials. In 2010, after years of investigation, Spanish police launched Operation Shovel, a massive crackdown on the Kinahan cartel. Hundreds of officers raided properties across Spain, arresting dozens of suspects and seizing vast quantities of drugs, weapons and cash. Christy Kinahan himself was among those arrested. He was extradited to Spain, where he faced charges of money laundering and drug trafficking. The Spanish authorities believed they had dealt a fatal blow to the Kinahan cartel, dismantling its leadership and crippling its operations. But they had underestimated the cartel's resilience and its ability to adapt. While Christy Kinahan languished in a Spanish prison, his sons, Daniel and Christopher, stepped up to fill the void. They relocated the cartel's operations to Dubai, a city known for its lax financial regulations and its reluctance to extradite criminals. Section 8. Adapting to survive. The Kinahan cartel's move to Dubai marked a turning point in its history. No longer content with being a major player in the European underworld, the cartel sought to transform itself into a truly global criminal enterprise. Dubai, with its strategic location at the crossroads of Europe, Asia and Africa, provided the perfect base of operations. The city's booming economy and its lax financial regulations made it a magnet for money launderers and criminals seeking to invest their illicit profits. The Kinahan cartel thrived in this environment. They forged alliances with corrupt officials, businessmen, and members of Dubai's elite. The cartel's money flowed freely, invested in property, businesses, and even charities. The Kinahans themselves adopted a low profile, eschewing the flashy lifestyle that had attracted so much attention in the past. They became invisible, ghosts moving through the gilded cages of Dubai's luxury hotels and apartment blocks. Section 9. The price of power. The Kinahan cartel's rise to power came at a terrible cost. Their drug trafficking empire fueled addiction and misery. Their violence left a trail of blood on the streets. The cartel's ruthlessness was legendary. They silenced informants and terrorized rivals. Families were torn apart by drug-related crime. The Kinahans lived in luxury, untouched by the suffering. But violence eventually caught up with them. In 2016, a feud erupted in gunfire at Dublin's Regency Hotel. David Byrne, a close associate, was shot dead. The shooting marked a turning point in public perception. They became front-page news, synonymous with violence. Section 10. The Empire Under Siege. The Regency Hotel shooting sparked a wave of revulsion in Ireland and beyond. The Irish government, long accused of turning a blind eye to the Kinahan cartel's activities, came under intense pressure to act. Law enforcement agencies across the globe stepped up their efforts to dismantle the cartel's network. Assets were frozen, suspects were arrested, and the Kinahans themselves became international fugitives. The US government imposed sanctions on the cartel, designating them a significant transnational criminal organization and offering rewards for information, leading to the arrest and conviction of its leaders. The walls were closing in on the Kinahan cartel. Their once impregnable empire was under siege, battered by law enforcement pressure and public outrage. The question was no longer whether the cartel would fall, but when. Section 11. An uncertain future. The Kinahan cartel, once a byword for invincibility in the criminal underworld, now faces an uncertain future. Their leadership is on the run, their assets are frozen, and their network is in disarray. But the cartel has proven remarkably resilient in the past. They have weathered storms before, adapting to challenges and emerging stronger. Whether they can survive this latest onslaught remains to be seen. The outcome of the battle against the Kinahan cartel has implications far beyond the streets of Dublin or the gilded cages of Dubai. Their downfall would be a major victory for law enforcement agencies around the world, and a powerful symbol that even the most powerful criminal organizations are not above the law. But the fight against organized crime is never truly over. For every cartel that is dismantled, another is waiting in the wings, ready to take its place. The battle against the Kinahan cartel may be nearing its end, but the war against organized crime continues.